We are here today with Marc Bell, who is seeking the Democratic nomination for the 99th House seat in the November 6th general election. We appreciate you being here today and invite you to start by providing an opening statement as to why you think you're the best candidate.
Well, good morning. My name is Marc Bell. I am the Democratic nominee for state rep of the 99th District. I am a retired Illinois State Police Master Sergeant. I am currently a school resource officer, a father, a grandfather, concerned citizen. The reason why I threw my hat into the ring is because approximately 4 years ago, or just short of 4 years ago, when the governor took office, he decided that the people of the 99th didn't need a voice at the State House. He changed our rep and put someone in there who would only vote for what he wanted. So the 99th District is probably the highest concentration of state workers, state retirees, union folks, and the Republican agenda is clear that it is anti-union. So I am here to give the citizens of the 99th a true voice at the state capitol. I took an oath on October 4th, 1985, as a state trooper that I would give my life, if I had to, for the citizens of this great state. And I still feel strongly about that. And I will fight to the end and fight for these citizens to make sure that they have opportunities for success, and that is my platform, to provide opportunities for success for the 99th District and all the citizens of Illinois.
Okay. Can I just follow up on one thing you said?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that the governor appointed someone who would only vote for what he wanted, but Representative Jimenez did vote to override his budget.
Yes, ma'am. And I applaud her on that, but up until that point, she did not represent the district well.
Okay. You mentioned your background in law enforcement, specifically working for the state police.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you think that could be an asset if you're elected, that background?
Well, as law enforcement, what we do is basically solve people's problems on the road, more traffic related or accident related, some serious accidents. But as I progressed and became a master sergeant, shift commander, I spent most of my time on the phone with the citizens of whatever area I was working in. And they all had different problems. They had problems with child care and domestic issues, and they reach out to law enforcement to help solve those problems. So I've had 30 years of experience in problem solving, and that makes me the best candidate for this position.
Okay, so if you're good at problem solving, I'd say the biggest problem this state faces is unfunded pension liability.
Yes.
How would you go about using those problem solving skills to help get some stability in that area?
Well, with the unfunded pension, what we need to realize is that, and I always call it's really kind of like a Ponzi scheme, because the money that you pay in as a state worker is used up pretty fast. So the money that you're getting in your retirement is actually being paid by the people who are working after yours is all used up. So we need to, if you look at when Blagojevich was governor, he said more with less. And now we've had so many people retire. The number of state workers is so low that we really don't have a lot of people funding the pension, but we have a lot of people retired. So that's causing some of the issues. Also, we need to seek out more funding sources, more revenue sources, in order to pay down our bills and to tackle this pension issue.
Where would you look to for those additional revenue sources?
Well, as I go out, people are loving the idea of the recreational marijuana, more gambling. I wasn't for that at first, but I've been to a few places, and they seem to love those machines and all the restaurants, and people, you know, they love them. It's almost a spectator sport. People are looking over people's shoulders and cheering for them, and if that is going to give us the revenue that we need to pay down our bills and to tackle the pension, then that's what we should do.
Do you think those two will, though? I believe there was a recent report about if we expanded gambling in this state, it would only bring in about $12 million in additional revenue, something around that ballpark figure.
Well, I'm a little leery of a lot of brick and mortar, because you've got a lot of gambling spots here in Springfield, and I believe the riverboat in Peoria is probably not doing as well as it used to be because people just gamble at home. Also, electronic gaming, sports gaming would also be a good way to raise revenue.
I'm sorry, can I do a follow-up? From your background as a law enforcement official, recreational marijuana legalization, what issues do you see any downsides that offset the revenue?
Well,
how does it have to be handled?
Probably the same as alcohol. Alcohol. I mean, just like alcohol, people are smoking marijuana, and we have put in different levels on how much alcohol that you can legally intake before it becomes a problem, and we would have to do the same with marijuana.
Going back to gambling, just really quick, there's a push from some people here to get a casino in Springfield. Just curious, would you be interested in that, having a bricks and mortar casino here downtown?
Only if we could guarantee that it would be profitable.
Okay.
Because they would bring in jobs initially, but and it may bring in some tourism. But like I said, I'm a little leery of the brick and mortar because things jump off really good at the beginning and then it kind of fades away. And brick and mortar hasn't been doing too well. Our mall is losing stores. People are doing things online. So if there's a convenient way to gamble, they may pick that other than the brick and mortar. But if it could bring in tourism, that would be great.
Okay. We had started talking about, we got on this line of thought about talking about pensions. Do you believe the Constitution should be amended so that previously earned retirement benefits can be changed? Right now, that's, you can't do that under our Constitution. Would you be okay changing that? Or?
No, not at all. And going back to law enforcement, I believe in rules in law, and I believe we need to follow those. And the contracts that we make, we need to keep those contracts. When you start changing horses in the middle of the stream or not following contracts and not abiding by the contracts that you signed, people just don't trust you. And I think that is one of the big issues with our citizens and our legislators. They have little trust because they tend to spend more time trying to figure out how not to pay the citizens what they deserve.
So aside from more revenue, what could be done? Do you have ideas for tackling the issue structurally to deal with, the pension, the mounting obligations?
The tiers that are there now, they need to get what they were promised. I wouldn't be opposed to looking at a tier 3, but I still like the defined benefit. For tier 3, maybe there would be a possibility of looking at not having the 3% every year compounded, maybe following the cost of living, but I am all for the defined benefit. I mean, the people who work for the state, they know that they're not going to be rich when they work. And most of them look for those state jobs for the benefits and for maybe someday having a pension that they can at least know that they'll have a place to live, they'll have some food, and be able to pay for their medicine and maybe take a trip every now and then. That's, you know, I'm retired myself, and that's what I look for. I told my kids, you know, hopefully you'll pay your student loan so I don't have to eat cat food in my retirement. So, you know, and that's what most retirees want.
If you were elected, would you have to recuse yourself from voting on pensions?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Moving on, I was on your campaign website for a while the other day, and I noted you had job creation as one of your top priorities. You mentioned that in your opening statement with us. Why is that an area you want to focus on?
Like I said, my platform is providing opportunities for success, because there is no success if you don't have those opportunities, and that starts with education, pre-K. So I'm really passionate about the education piece, because we need to educate our children so they can be ready for the jobs of the future. When people say we're going to bring manufacturing back, I don't believe that. So we need to prepare our children and our workforce for the jobs of today, which we have some jobs, but we don't have people to actually fill those jobs. So also job training. And skilled labor. My generation, well, the generation before me, my father and mother, my mom worked for Illinois Bell, my dad, he worked for a sewer contractor. So he told us to get an education, go to college, and that's what a lot of people did. So a lot of the skilled labor has gone unfilled. So we need to get back to shop classes and getting people interested in those type of positions, because they can make a living wage doing that and not incur all the debt of going to college. And we also need to make our colleges more affordable.
Okay, we'll just keep on with education then. That was another one of your priorities. You said you wanted to invest more in public schools.
Yes, ma'am.
To what level would you want to do that, and how are you going to accomplish it?
Well, and that comes from raising revenue from other sources. Just like at home, I know that I need to make sure I have money before I start spending it on something else. To me, government, you have to be fiscally responsible, but it's not like a regular business. I mean, because you really have to care about people. We have social service issues. You know, sometimes the Republican agenda is more about cut this, cut that, but there's a lot of things that we can't cut, and we've got a huge opioid problem, and some things just can't be cut. So we need to raise more revenue so we can elevate our schools. And I believe a lot of new economic ventures will come from schools. If we can get our colleges back and keep our kids here, the research and development at colleges will bring us more income, more economic opportunities in Illinois.
Through taxes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Through taxes and...
Well, just coming up with the new thing. Because I asked somebody, like, what's the lithium-ion battery is the thing now. What's the new thing? And there's some very smart people in college who can figure out what the new thing is. And we need that new thing here in Illinois. We need a win in Illinois. And if nobody's going to our colleges and in our research and development departments, we won't get that.
So when you talk about more revenue though for education,
Mm-hmm.
We just talked about needing revenue for pensions as well. Where are you looking for the revenue for education?
Well, it would all be the same revenue coming in, then we just have to decide on how much is going where.
So with gambling?
Gambling, recreational marijuana, any other things. Definitely not not taxes, because people hate taxes, and I don't really love them myself. Mm-hmm. From being out in the community, people would like to take that extra money that they would be paying on taxes and put that into their 401k, so one day they'll have an opportunity to retire.
Mm-hmm.
There'd only be so much new revenue, I think, generated, though. Where would you look for cutting then? I mean, if we can't cut, I mean, if there's only so much new money coming in, and we have existing expenses, and we want to spend more on these various things, I mean, something has to give. Where would you look for that to give?
Well, I would probably look for more waste. I spent, I believe it was my last 5 years as a fraud investigator for the Medicaid fraud unit. So there is some waste out there that we can target, and then bring in those dollars and use that.
On the issue of taxes.
Yes, ma'am.
J.B. Pritzker has talked about moving to a graduated income tax, even though he hasn't given specifics on it.
Yes.
What's your feeling on that proposal? Is that something you would be behind?
Yes, I would definitely be behind that. 34 other states have a graduated income tax structure, and they seem to be doing a lot better than us, so I would be behind that. As far as what particular percentages, and that hasn't been mapped out yet.
What would you need there to, what type of percentages would you need to throw your support behind it, I think?
Well, I would like to see the middle class have a cut in their taxes, the lower and the middle class, but you would have to decide on at what level do you consider middle class?
Which was my next question.
$250,000? Is it $500,000 a year?
So where's the level in your mind?
Right now, it's probably about 500 for a married couple.
So couples making less than 500,000, you feel should get a cut?
Yes, ma'am.
Going back to both schools and pensions a little bit, would you be in favor of the state shifting the pension responsibility of local school districts? That's been an idea that's been floated out there in recent years.
Not at all, and that's so confusing to me because I believe that was part of Governor Rauner's agenda, but he wanted to freeze property tax. But if you switch the pension liability to the local school districts, one of the ways that they get their money is property taxes. So you can't have it both ways. So no, not at all. And some of the people, a lot of elderly people are having problems paying their property taxes. So if the state would adequately fund education, maybe we could cut some of those property taxes down a little bit and give a little relief.
You had talked about higher education, about the need to keep students here in state as opposed to going elsewhere. What type of initiatives and incentives can the state offer to keep the best and brightest here in Illinois?
Well, I didn't want to give all my secrets away, but I guess I will right now. And I have not done the math on this, but I would love to see where, if it was fiscally possible, we could have the citizens, the kids of the citizens of Illinois, pay for their first 3 years and maybe give them a free 4th year as an incentive to stay. And in my mind, I'm doing it that way because we don't want to pay for a free year and then the kids drop out of school. Mm-hmm. So if you made it to your senior year, there's a good chance that you are going to finish this degree, and hopefully you'll stay in Illinois. It seems that most kids that go away to college tend to stay where they went to school.
Would you put any income restrictions on that?
No, not really. I mean, we've got that as far as with the MAP grants. And those may have to be adjusted because the middle class are not getting that money. Like a lot of the kids that are going to school are not getting a MAP grant. all they're getting is, oh, you can take out a loan. And I have that personal experience. I sent 3 daughters to college. I still pay Sally Mae right now. And with the way the level is currently, there's no way that you can actually send your kids to college and run your household if you got multiple kids in college at the same time. So I think those levels need to be adjusted for the middle class so they can get some of those loans. I mean, some of those grants that they don't have to pay back.
Moving on to a different topic, public safety is another thing on your website. I would think you'd bring some unique perspectives to that. You said you would work to create realistic goals for increasing public safety. What are those goals that you have?
Well, for one thing, and like I said earlier, I'm a school resource officer for Ball Chatham. Unfortunately, in today's world, we need to provide greater security for our schools. The kids don't need to be worried that they may or may not make it in school. They need to be concentrating on their education. So, and I would really like, and this is stepping outside of the state, but the feds to provide some grant money for all of our schools to provide security, adequate security, or security officers for each school.
You also said you want to make sure police have the tools they need to succeed. Do you think police are lacking the tools they need right now?
Well, there's always budget issues when it comes to that. And right now, we have so few troopers that it's an officer safety issue. When I worked the road in Chicago, we had 4 patrols on the Eisenhower, 4 on the Kennedy, and all of those were staffed. Now I'm hearing there's 1 trooper per expressway in the Chicago area some days, and that's just unsafe. And they also need personnel, so they need also training, and they need constant training because it's a tough job getting tougher. And they have to deal with a lot of things now that I didn't even deal with as far as social media and everything is across the world in 2 seconds. But they need that constant training on how to deal with situations like that, more de-escalation training, just those type of things that they may need that they cannot currently afford with the budgets that they have.
Can you elaborate on that for a second? How much has the force level fallen with state police, since you were in there?
You know, I don't know the exact
what would be appropriate
numbers.
Staffing levels?
I don't know the exact numbers right now, but I believe in '85 when we took on the Chicago Expressway system, we probably had, and this probably included code personnel also and sworn, it was probably like 5,000. And I think they may be down to 2, but I'm not 100% sure.
How could you and a member of the General Assembly help accomplish those goals of getting these additional resources, this additional training?
It would be increasing their budget.
Okay.
And some of what happened ended up, we took over the Chicago Expressway system in '86, and just right after I came on. So there was a big influx to take over that. So 28 years later, they all retired. And so that big influx. But as you see people retiring, you have to backfill them. And we don't do a good job of doing that in the state police or any state agency. The state is understaffed. We have a lot of caseworkers who are overworked. I worked with them when I was in Medicaid fraud, and they have certain things they need to do with their cases on a periodic basis, like they need to go out and see them 2 or 3 times a year. But if you got 700 cases, there's no way in the world that you can stop by and see all these people 2 or 3 times a year. So They're understaffed, they're overworked. When they make it to retirement, they go. They're not staying behind because they know that somebody else's work is going to get dumped on them.
Also, under that same area on your campaign website, you said you'd like to strive to make Illinois a state of responsible gun owners. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is I am pro-Second Amendment. I have no problem with that. But we have to be responsible with selling guns and who we sell our guns to. And I was telling a gentleman that said, you know, I don't have a problem with what you buy, but I think the authorities have a right to know what you have. If you've got 100 rifles and you live next door to me, I want somebody to know, I want you to be on their radar that you could start a small war in a moment's notice. And that's not saying, you know, we want to come and take your guns, but that's just an unusual amount. And I don't know what the regular amount on a, so we got a lot of hunters in this area. And some of them may have 20 rifles. Okay, that's fine, you know. But if you got 100, that just seems a little bit out of whack to me. So I don't see what the problem is of at least knowing or keeping track of the guns that we sell legally. Because there should be a liability on the person that's selling that gun and who they sold it to.
Going back to financial stability a little bit, you had that as also as a priority, that you would want to work for a bipartisan balanced budget that ensures the state's pays its bills. It's debatable if the state has ever had actually a truly balanced budget. One approved this year is not balanced. I believe it recently came out that it was off by more than $1 billion or so when they applied for some bonds. So it seems like pretty much every politician we have that sits there says they want this, and it's actually very rarely achieved. How would you work to achieve this as a member of the House?
Well, I have no problem with crossing the aisle and trying to work with anybody and everybody to get that accomplished. When this year's budget was signed, with the promise of maybe somebody would take a pension buyout, anytime there's a, you know, a promise of something happening, then it might not happen. So we should not do budgets with a promise of maybe somebody will do this and maybe somebody will do that, because that's not how we function in our own lives. You don't function thinking maybe, you know, my grandma's going to kick off and she's going to leave me $1 million so I can pay my bills, so I'm going to go and buy this Maserati. That's not how we function in life. That's not how I function anyway.
Good.
So would you have voted for the budget that passed if you had been in the General Assembly, given that it did have these assumptions and suppositions?
I would have struggled. And if that was the only way that we could have come up with a budget, then I probably would have, but I would have really struggled with that issue.
If elected to the seat and the Democrats retain the House, would you vote for Michael Madigan for another term as House Speaker?
I will vote for the person that is going to provide the most opportunities for the citizens of the 99th District.
Is that person Mike Madigan?
I will vote for the person or whoever is going to do the best for my community and my district.
Is it?
What has Speaker Madigan done a good job, yes or no?
Speaker Madigan is a very shrewd man, a very smart man. I have not followed him all through his years, so it would be hard for me to say whether he has done a great job or not done a great job. I believe he's done great things on a lot of issues, and maybe some people would say he hasn't on others.
Any other questions? All right, well, we thank you, Mark, for being with us today, and so we invite you to give a closing statement, kind of your elevator pitch, essentially, as to why you believe you would be the best person for the 99th House District.
Well, the 99th District, as I stated earlier, state workers, union workers, they need a strong representation, somebody who understands them, somebody who has basically been where they are and understand what it's like to work under a contract. And I, as a retired trooper, trained by them to be the best, I am the best choice for state representative of the 99th District.
Okay.
Thank you.